Hey fellas, your commissioner here, coming at you for a little week 14 of NFL action. Start off, well, the Razorbacks have really thrown me for a loop. It just, I feel like I get into my flow. I talk about the Razorback football game. It's great. Basketball, great. Basketball team did win. They did try to blow the game late on Monday night. It didn't happen. Of course, since we've last spoken to each other, we beat Duke, right? Fuck Duke. It's always fuck Duke. I heard that Nick actually wore Duke gear to the game, so I don't want us to ever question. It's not even a discussion anymore that he is truly a Duke fan. He does not care about the Razorbacks. He does not support the Razorbacks. He's a Duke fan through and through. His blood bleeds blue. So, anyways, enough about that. Let's go ahead here and get into a recap of last week's games. We'll start off here with our Tums game of the week between Kickers Lives Matter and Dillon Dynasty. It was not the best game. No. Kickers Lives Matter and the McCockners. Also not a good game. But, Kickers Lives Matter does fall to JD 116 to 106. I did my research before this too because I've been trying to be more professional for you guys and not look up the video at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, Tom's, okay, Duncan, got it. I know, Duncan played Rip or Dillon, right? Of course. Sure enough, he played JD. But I caught myself on whenever we missed that game earlier in the season. We won't talk about that one. But anyway, huge win for JD, 116 to 106. I have crunched playoff scenarios, kind of. I did a little bit, and then I kind of saw the picture. Do I have every single scenario of Rips loses and JD wins and score this many points? I don't. Thought about doing it. I was like, this is not for me. But I do have a rough idea. Honestly, both of these teams, no matter how this game flipped, they basically had to win to stay in to the playoffs. With a loss, one of them would for sure be out, and the other one would be on the fence. It would just come down to the scoring. But certainly you'd rather be 7-6 and 6-7. There's no denying that. Duncan's now lost 3 in a row, severely underperformed from his projections. Of course, a big part of that was Christian Kirk getting hurt on his first catch of the game, out for the game. Certainly looked like he was in for a big game against the Bengals. T. Higgins is a bum. He doesn't like playing football. 6.6 points out of him. I think Brian Robinson also got hurt. Pacheco left hurt, although Pacheco did score 21 points before he left the game. Dak had a great game on Thursday night. Looked like Duncan was on his way, to victory. Unfortunately, CD pretty much matched Dak's production, and so that was a little bit underwhelming. And then Cooks had a good game as well. Pretty much, double digits, over 15 points from almost his whole lineup. Of course, Downs, not a great game, and Joker, not a great game. T's not a great game either. But 116 with his number one wide receiver, number two, I guess, behind DJ Moore, who would be a number one wide receiver on a lot of teams. Not playing Jordan Love. No Ty Chandler, no Burrow, of course, but. I got to say, JD's been very, very fortunate with the quarterback waiver wire. Of course, he's had injuries. Starting with Burrow from the draft, but he picks up Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was QB1, until he went down, and then picks up Jordan Love, and Jordan Love's been on a 3-game hot streak. I think pretty much ever since JD acquired him. JD he's a dangerous team. I think Duncan, JD, myself, Dillon, Wilson, Dillon, and then Wilson. Not Dylan Wilson, but Dillon and then Wilson. I think we're all kind of the same caliber of team. I honestly do. I think we're all about the same. I think all, between the what is that, the five of us, four of us, however many it is, I think that we should all honestly be in the playoffs. Of course, at least one will be left out, potentially two, maybe even, yeah, potentially two. And so, but that's the way it goes. I thought that the stats that Blaine shared yesterday were very enlightening on some teams' luck, as in, can you feel the love? Next game here, Swamp Donkeys versus Can You Feel the Love? Blaine establishes dominance. Hashtag establish it, right? 150 to 126. Honestly, outside of a couple matchups, this was really a high-scoring week. I mean, you had two teams at 150. You had another couple teams there at over 125. So I guess it was just those four. Everybody else was pretty shit to average. But huge for Blaine. 4-game win streak, 9-4. He has been on an absolute tear. Buys, doesn't matter. Injuries, oh wait, he doesn't have those. He doesn't have those. So, unless that happens, good luck. Good luck to all of us, right? I mean, just crown him. Crown his ass. They are who he is. The Swamp Donkeys are who we thought they were. All right? And that's why we took the damn field. So they could embarrass every single team in the league over these last 4 weeks, and probably over the next 4 as well. So, he picks up Gardner Minshew, who has 22 points. Kamara, monster. St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans. Mike Evans has been on a tear. My God, Mike Evans. And then Evan Ingram, he finally plays on what's he do? His best game of the season. I don't get it. Now, I mean, Blaine's team is good no matter how you slice it, no matter who it is. I mean, he is a legit powerhouse. He honestly, with the way his team is playing right now, he should be undefeated. I think if he had this team playing the way it is right now for the rest of the season, he'd be undefeated. I mean, he puts Puka on the bench, and Puka gets 24 points. Chuba Hubbard on the bench, 22. Charbonnet, 17. This guy is loaded. All right? There is no shot in hell that we have any of the other 11, of beating this guy unless 2 or 3 of his players just spontaneously combust. There's just no way. There's no way that his team is so deep. Now, a few weeks ago, earlier in the season, his team wasn't deep, and he had losses. He wasn't a complete team, but through trades and pickups, this guy has no holes. Even if players go down, it would take 5, 6 maybe, because he's got replacements. Boom, guys scoring 20 points, he can keep them on the bench. Oh my God, this guy, and rip whatever, valiant effort, This fucking team, it shouldn't even be anywhere close to sniffing a playoff spot. He should be down in the gutter with Nick and with Connor and with with Ford. And it's somehow he's 7-6. I don't understand. But he's got good players. I mean, Jalen Hurts, stud. Breece Hall's good. Debo's a stud. Devontae's really good. Saquon's good. He's got good guys, but his team just doesn't play well. This is a team I know so well because I've had it for the last couple years. All these big-name guys, these sexy guys who should be dominating, should be putting up the point totals that Blaine's putting up, and they don't. They underperform routinely, at 100 points, below 100 points all the time, and sometimes you get lucky and nobody plays well against you, and you end up with 7-6, and other times you end up 6-7, 5-8, and it's 6-8, and it's not fun. It's not a fun place to be. I think Rip is still he's on very thin ice. He's on very thin ice for holding on to that playoff spot. He's got to win. He doesn't win, he's done. He's done because there's no point breaker he has against all those other teams that are 6-7 or 7-6. None of them. All right. He's got a tiebreaker. I don't think 1 or 2 teams, and they're down there in the horse ass bowl. So what does that tell you? Next year, Cataclysmic Catches dominates. If it was fun, it was fun while it lasted. 128 to 102. Pretty much takes Savoy out of controlling his own destiny, officially out of the running for the number 1 overall seed. Huge win for Wilson. I mean, again, if he fell to 6-7, even if he won, it wouldn't be a guarantee that he could still make it into the playoffs. So this was a huge win for him. Obviously, with the loss, he's probably out. But he wins and he's in, right? All those 7-6 teams, all you got to do is win next week. That's it. And you control your destiny. You win, you are in. You don't have to rely on anybody. You don't have to worry about nothing. You win and you're in. So it's actually, wait. Yes. Because we have 4 teams at 7-6, 1 at 8-5, 1 at 9-4. So there's 6 right there. That's all you need. Next here we got, was I really the dog shit team of the week? Oh, barely. Woo-hoo-hoo. This might be the closest dog shit team of the week we've had all season. Maybe all season. Guess what? Guess what that means? It's going to be a twofer. All right. It's going to be a daily, even though it's not in the same matchup. That maybe has never happened either, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. So anyways, next, like I said, Wilson, great win for him. Patty Mahomes is really holding this team back. He's not been hardly even a serviceable starting quarterback in fantasy this season. It's really, they have guys. They're spreading it around. They have Kelsey, pretty much all the same pieces of what they had last year when Mahomes was like QB1. So it's very peculiar to me. Obviously, they're a lot more defense-oriented this season, maybe a little bit more control of the clock. But Laporta, he's a beast, 29 points. Kupp had a bounce-back game, I guess, after a string of shit. Got 16 points. Taysom Hill, 16 points, this guy. this freaking guy. And for Savoy, no Diggs, no Gus Bus. Aaron Jones hurt again. Higbee stinks. He's in tight end hell. McLaurin got goosed. Algier stinks. Mostert didn't do much because the Dolphins just dominated that game from start to finish. Whatever. Savoy's locked into the 2 seed pretty much. There are still some scenarios that he could lose it. Obviously, with a loss, it opens up the door for some of those 7-6 teams to jump up. I think the minimum that one team has to outscore him by is like 40 points. I think JD has to outscore him by 40 points to potentially jump into the 2. Not likely to happen. It just goes up from there, 60, 80, 100, I think, are the 4 spreads there. So, but yeah, first round bye, gotta love it. You take that every day of the week. That's one less game you have to win. Anything can happen in any of these weeks, so you never know. You don't ever want to have to play an extra game that you don't have to play. So next here, concussion protocol versus doesn't contribute. Nick wins this one, 153-139. Devastating loss for doesn't contribute. Hard to understate it because he is the lowest scoring 6 and 7 team. He needs to win and get help, a lot of help, to be able to make it into the playoffs. He needs several losses from several owners. It might be very, very, it's possible still, I think, but very, very slim chances versus being 7-6. Next week you win, you're in. You lose, you could still maybe be in. And for Nick, it doesn't really do much other than basically put everybody on a level playing field for those worst two teams in the horse ass. Like I said, you get a bye, 11-12 seed, get a bye. In that case, it's a bad thing to have less games because there's one less chance you have of winning a single game. All you got to do, win one game, you're safe from the horse ass. The team that will go 0-2 or 0-3, depending on if they had the bye, will receive the horse ass. They will be the only team without a win in the horse ass bracket, and they get this next year. They get this. So, but dominant Monday night performances from Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. They combined for almost 50 points. So it very, very encouraging to see that. And I'd be scared. Nick's team, I wouldn't want to play him down in the horse ass bracket. If his team's capable of putting up 153, no, thank you. Now, T-Law did get hurt. Derrick Henry said he was in concussion protocol. Apparently he's not, so he's probably fine. Etienne's he's always a little banged up, Watson hurt the hammy. Nobody knows how long he's going to be out. So if he's going to be out, it's 139. Third highest scoring team on the week. To take a loss like that, putting up such a strong point total, it's you hate to see it. I thought he was Gucci. Hand up, hand up. That's on me. I thought Craig was Gucci. That was a premature gooch on my part, and maybe it'll happen again. Maybe it won't. I'll try to limit it in the future. Let me just say that. I think that's the best I could do. A game with very little consequence that does feature our true dog shit team of the week. Dirty Birds of War and Father Figures, two teams that aren't playing for anything other than to not get this next year. Plunk finally bust his 6-game losing streak to win 116.9 to 99. So good for Connor. Dylan also, he played me. He beat me 113 to 99. So, he moves to 7-6. He wins, he's in. He loses, he's out, basically. So, next week, anyway. I've lost now 2 in a row. Ford busted his little win streak he was on. Lost 1 in a row. So, our 2 dog shit throw up all over themselves. Fat as fuck. White as fuck. Teams of the week. Just pure piss. The only 2 teams without, and not the good kind of piss, without breaking 100 points this week. Every other team in the league was over 100 points. We were the 2. 99.7, 99.9. And it's just pathetic. It's quite pathetic from both of us. This is crunch time. Ford, he could have made a run at a playoff spot. He wins next week. He's 6-7 with Duncan and Craig and myself. And very much, granted, a lot of things would have to happen, but very much still in the mix. And he goes out and lays this shit against a guy who hasn't won in over a month and a half. Ford. All right? He doesn't have James Cook. He doesn't have Lamar. What are we doing, guy? He's trying out Kyler Murray and Zach Moss and Juwan Johnson at tight end. He has no tight end. Jamar saved his ass on Monday night, 31 points. That was basically the difference. Mixon had a very good game, 30-point game. If Jamar had been held in check and Mixon had that game, Ford maybe wins this game. But he didn't and he doesn't. So, or he doesn't and he didn't. So, and then the horse ass, I was looking like I was in a great spot, 6-5, lose 2 in a row. And you know what? I think coincidence. I think not. Last 2 weeks have been 0 power rankings out of the commissioner's office. Of course, a couple weeks ago that was on conditional council member Rip for not providing the rankings in a timely manner, as he said he would multiple times. And then last week, none of the council members submitted their power rankings. And so I was doing a little social experiment just to see if I wasn't the first one to submit the power rankings, what would happen? What would happen? And I'm not usually the first one. I'll be full to admit that. Usually Nick, I've seen Craig, not Craig, but I've seen Nick, I've seen Duncan. Those are usually the top 2 guys. And it didn't happen. And so I can guarantee you this. There will be power rankings this week. The final power rankings of the season, okay? And whether I got to do it my damn self, and it's just going to be the commission's own personal power rankings, then so be it. And I will make that happen for y'all. So, because I'm not dealing with this bad karma. I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want this again. I don't want it. Okay, I need that to go to somebody else. So, obviously, JT got hurt right when I needed him the most. He vanished. So didn't have them this week. Really needed him. Really needed to rely on him. Had to start Rico Daddle instead because Madison was on bye. Tank Dell Gooser breaks his leg on a goal line run block play. Why a 5'10", 180 guy is even down there in the mix is beyond me. D'Amico, figure it out. Fryermuth did nothing. Dobbs had a good game. Tyreek and Tua, they were fine. But what did I say? What did I say I needed from them? I needed at least 60 points, and I think maybe in my own head I was like, I need at least maybe 70 from them to compete. And Tyreek held up his end of the bargain, 32 points. I can't ask for much more than that. Only 5 catches, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. But the Commanders are just so bad at football that Washington beat the brakes off of them so bad their offense couldn't score that Tua did nothing. I mean, they had a pick six again. I feel like that's their freaking fifth defensive touchdown this season. Every time I'm looking at it, it's a defensive touchdown or it's a rushing touchdown. And that's what the rest of the game was rushing touchdowns. And so, only 24 out of him. I really needed him after Geno had his best game of the season, after I've been talking shit on him all damn season. He drops 36 on my head on Thursday night. The vaunted Cowboys defense is just pathetic. It's a disgrace. I don't know why anyone would choose to be a Cowboys fan, because the rest of D-Shade's team didn't do shit. Pollard had a good game, 17. McCaffrey did what he does in 22. But the rest of this lineup is extremely beatable. It's extremely beatable. And, unfortunately, I had no Hawkinson, I had no Madison, I had no Devontae, I had no JT. I mean, that's 4 starters on my team. Gone. It's tough to overcome that. And obviously another injury. I mean, an injury early in the game that knocked out one of the best wide receivers in the game this season in fantasy. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. But, here I am, 6-7. I still control my destiny. Even if I won this game, the outcome would be no different for me. So getting into the scenarios, the outcome would be no different. It's basically, it's a win and in for me. It's a win and in for me. If I lose, I'm out. For Duncan, same scenario. Win and in, lose, he's out. Okay? For JD, also. I mean, so basically all the 7-6 teams, you win and you're in. Craig, I believe, is the only team. He's 6-7. I believe he's the only team. Even if he won, he potentially could not still get in because he's playing a team that's 5-8. So that game doesn't matter, for trying to knock out somebody above him, knock them down. So even if he did win this game, he'd be 7-7. And so if all the 7-6 teams won, right, he's out. He misses the parade. So the scenario is different for Duncan and I. So he needs at least one of those 7-6 teams to lose, if not multiple to lose, because I'm playing a 7-6 team, and Duncan is playing a 7-6 team. So that's how Duncan and I can control our destinies, because we can beat a 7-6 team, and basically we both already have more points than those two owners. And so if we beat them, we would maintain that more points than advantage, and it guarantees, it solidifies a playoff spot for us. For the teams that are 7-6, Rip loses, he's out, because he's going to lose to Duncan. Duncan would take his spot, basically. And assuming all the other 7-6 teams won, okay? Even if Rip loses, he's out. I don't think there's any scenario where Rip can lose and still be in the playoffs. Even if Duncan would win, yeah, I mean, that's it right there. That's it. So for Wilson, if he lost, he could still stay in because he is playing a 5-8 team, so that's advantageous for him. Because he could lose, and then a 6-7 team's not beating him. So a 5-8 team would be beating him. So he could still get in if I lost and Duncan lost. And I think Craig could win and Wilson could still get in. The points are close, so they're actually like dead even. So maybe not on that. It might take all three of us losing the 6-7 teams for him to lose and still stay in the playoffs, because he would be 7-7, and somebody else could be, if somebody else was 7-7, that could beat him by points. I would think if he lost. So for Rip, we went over Rip for JD and D-Shade. D-Shade was the one that was closest to Savoy points wise. It's about 40 points. So if D-Shade did win this week, if Dylan did win this week, he would, and Savoy lost, which is probably going to happen, and Dylan scored more than 40 points more than Savoy, he could jump into that bye. JD would need about, I think, 60 or 80 points to do that, so very, very much not as likely. JD, though, if he loses, he could also fall out of playoffs, because he would be losing to a 6-7 team. I'm in with a win no matter what. If he falls to 7-7, he could still stay in, depending on what happens with the Duncan and Rip game because Duncan does have more points than JD. So if Duncan were to win and I were to win, and I think that Duncan and myself would take JD and Rip's spots, respectively, if Wilson were to win as well. If Wilson were to lose, then JD would basically take Wilson's spot, and he could still stay in the playoffs. For Dylan, I think it's pretty much the same scenario. He's a little bit closer to us in points, so there's a possibility that if he went high and maybe I scored low and still won, that he could pass me. He's only about 20 points behind me right now. So if I were to lose, of course, he would stay in even if he lost, or he would take Rip's spot potentially as well if Rip lost. So because that would be Duncan wins, I think, yes. So that's basically the scenarios. It's pretty simple. There's a little bit of complexity to it if you want to get into the exact seeding and all that stuff. But pretty much, Blaine's in, Savoy's in. Ford, Plunk, Nick are out. Okay. Duncan or I win. We're in. Okay. That would mean that JD's potentially out with a loss. Rip would definitely be out with a loss. Okay. Craig needs to win and get some help to stay in. Of all the 7 and 6 teams, they win and they're in. They lose, and Dylan and JD have a pretty good shot at staying in. If Wilson or Rip lose, they are pretty much with a 95% certainty going to be missing the playoffs. So that's that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and break down the final week of the regular season, fellas. Oh, there were some pickups today, I guess, real quick. Yeah, we're doing great on time. Great on time. I ought to do this more often. JD picks up Roschon Johnson for 5. I end up picking up Horse Sass picks up Kenneth Gainwell for 1. And then I picked up Parker Washington for 2. Drop Royce Freeman. Nick got Devontae Parker for 2 fab. Failed to pick up Pierce. I failed to pick up Devontae and Quentin Johnson. So, all right. Preview of Week 14. There's several games going to be games of the week. Several. There are big games all up and down this card, but I can think of only one. And we will get to that in a minute. Starting off here, game that has very little relevance. Maybe slightly if Savoy were to lose. It could open the door, like I said, crack that door open for somebody to jump up to the 2 seed. Very unlikely, but possible. He is projected to lose 105 to 132. Blaine is at full staff this week. No injuries, no buys. He's ready to rock and roll. He does have Terry on bye for Savoy does, rather. Not playing C.J. Stroud against the Jets. That's smart. He needs Aaron Jones back. Palmer, maybe he's coming back as well. Blaine's not going to lose to this guy, so we're going to go with Blaine in that one. Next here, we got Shade Dynasty and Father Figures. Game again. Probably is not going to mean much in the grand scheme of things. Should be an easy win for Dylan. If Ford were to play spoiler somehow, and the 3 times I think he's broken over 100 points all season, maybe. But my gut tells me he's probably going to be right around 95 to 99 points yet again for another week. So no Hollywood this week, but he basically didn't have him last week either. So Dylan's supposed to win 122 to 100. I think that Dylan, as much as I hate it, his team's not bad enough to lose to Ford. And I think he gets to 8-6 and cements himself into playoff contention. Next here, Cataclysmic Catches and Concussion Protocol. Again, chance for a 5-8 team to play spoiler. Better their chances of getting out of that 11-12 trash can, I guess, for lack of a better term. He is projected to win 110 to 105. Now, ETN, Derrick Henry, Christian Watson, these are all questionable guys. He's got no McBride this week, but Ferguson's been great in his absence. Looks like he still won't have Pop Douglas back from the concussion. Wilson is down. James Conner this week. So he's basically only got one running back playing this week. But Mahomes should have a good game against Buffalo. Sammy Lapie is tearing it up. I think this is a close game. I think Wilson. I mean, can he do it? Can he do it back to back years? Maybe he's on fire. Maybe his mentor. Wouldn't that be a real shame? Wouldn't it? If the guy who he stole powers from, his mentor, were to knock him out of the playoffs, because with a loss, he's most likely out. He could still sneak in, but most likely out. I guess if all three 6 and 7 teams were to lose, he could stay in. But that's the only scenario if he loses. I don't think he can do it. I think Nick's lost his fastball. I think he's going to commit himself to the 12 seed and commit himself to being the best horse ass this league's ever seen. We're going to go with Wilson in that one. Next here, Can You Feel the Love and Kickers Lives Matter. Duncan, 3-game losing streak. Things you hate to see. Way on top of the list there. 6 and 7. He was 6 and 4 all not that long ago, and looked like a pretty much guaranteed lock to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, that's not to be. Rip finally got his win streak busted up to fall to 7 and 6. And Duncan, he's been projected in the 120s pretty consistently here. Last week, he obviously didn't do it, and he really needs a bounce-back game. Obviously, Philly stinks, so Dak Prescott should have a pretty good game. Really needs Eckler to get going. I don't know what's been wrong with him. He's got Jay Jetta back in time for a huge matchup to end the season. Obviously, looks like he's not going to have Christian Kirk. Noah Brown could be active. No Tank Dell looks good, but Jets secondary looks bad, so it's kind of a wash there. Loki, stop eating that food, boy. Kids. But, conversely, Jalen should carve up that terrible, terrible Cowboys defense. Maybe a Dallas Goedert back. Goedert. Ooh, that'd be big. I don't think that Rip deserves to be in the playoffs. I know he doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. We're going to go with Duncan in that one. Not even close. Penultimate matchup here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Yes. Craig doesn't contribute versus Dirty Birds, 120 to 104. Kyler Murray's on bye. Plunk has not set his lineup this week, so not legit. Once he puts Lamar in there, and there's 24 points right there, so he's projected to win about 130 to 120. It's pretty lofty point total there for a team who's 5 and 8. Might want to be playing him come horse ass time either. Very, very rarely is it the worst team in the regular season who wins the horse ass. It is very rare. It's usually the team who comes in on maybe a 3-game losing streak, potentially, and got injuries, and that's usually what happens. That's how it happens. Been there, done that. All right. But it's a huge game for Craig. Obviously, he still has a slim chance of the playoffs. He needs to win. Needs to get some help. I don't know. I think we're going to go with Connor in that one. I think ultimately it's going to be Ford and Nick, who I think are the 2 worst teams in the league this season, to be the 11 and 12 seed. That is my final prediction for that. And then the game of the week. There can be only one. It's been a long time since your commission's been in the game of the week. Presented by Burger King. All right, Burger King. One of the great things about Burger King is, they give you the tools and the opportunities to, you can have it your way. All right, you can have it your way. And what's better than BK, right? It says it right there on the bag. What's better than BK? You get free BK. That's what's better than BK. Free BK. You just got to scan this little code here, sign up for an app. That's the key, guys. That's the key. I know it's a lot of apps. They're stealing your data. I get it. You don't want it, okay? But you get this app, I can guarantee you're going to get discounts on your food. You're going to get free food, all right? This is like $9 what I got. If I was on the app, this would have been maybe $4. Maybe they would even hand it to me on a silver platter for free, So anyways, BK, the official fast food chain of the Bring That Wood Fantasy Football League. Cheers. Oh. You have no idea How long I've been wanting to eat one of those nuggets. You know what I mean? That is the Horse Ass and the McCockners. Projected to be a very close game, 119 to 115. This is a win and end scenario for both of these teams. This is a lose and definitely out or likely out for both of these teams. Battle of the quarterback. His new guy, Jordan Love, who's been on a tear the last few weeks. 24 points, 32 points, 29 points against good defenses, folks. These are some, Chiefs have a good defense now. The Giants do not. All right. But conversely, Tennessee does not have a very good defense either, especially in the pass. And, 2 Monday night games, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. We both have a lot of players in prime time this week. Should be an exciting game of the week. I hope it lives up to the hype. But Tua against the Titans, I need him. I need Tua to do something. I need him to be 25-point Tua, 30-point Tua, because the other shit's not cutting it. It's just not good enough. You're more talented than Jordan Love. I promise you that. I said you weren't talented the other day. You're more talented than Jordan Love. So we're going to go Tua. Battle of the running back. You got Javonte Williams and Alexander Madison versus Rashad White and Jerome Ford. Rashad White, another guy out of nowhere. This guy's a top 5 running back on the season. He's had one game below 10 double digits every single week this season. He has been an absolute PPR machine, touchdown machine. And Ford has been very respectable as well for a run-heavy Cleveland Browns team. So I've got a tough time going against JD's running backs. I hate Rashad White. And Jerome Ford's a third-string guy, but they've been performing very well for JD. So JD's he's had some really good pickups all season, honestly. Some of the best free agent acquisitions, I think, of any team as a whole. Obviously, other teams have had better players, but individual players. But as a whole, it's tough to beat. Kirk Cousins, Jordan Love, Jerome Ford, Brandon Cooks has been playing well. Njoku, he's really done a good job, I think, of making up for some of the inefficiencies and some of the bad luck he had in his draft. So, all right, enough nice stuff about him. Okay. Battle of the wide receivers. You got Tyreek, Deontay Johnson, Devontae Adams versus CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, and Brandon Cooks. It's tough, man. This is Battle of the Titans. This is number 1 and number 2. Tyreek and CeeDee, number 3. But CeeDee's he kind of came back down to reality a little bit, 16, 17 points, and then bam, right back on top, 32 points. He's playing a Philly team that he just got 28 points against last time without a touchdown. He's on a 4-game touchdown streak. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't continue on Sunday night. And I think he's going to have a monster game. I think Tyreek's going to have to do his shit to have a chance. And really, it's going to come down to the secondary guys. Devontae versus DJ Moore. Obviously, DJ Moore has probably been better on the season than Devontae has, especially with Fields back. 10 points, 22. Devontae's kind of come up a little bit, but not that level. 14, 21, 12. So he's going to need to have a monster game to match DJ Moore because, again, the Lions stink. It's going to be a shootout in that game. And then you got to hope that Deontay and Cooks are kind of about the same. So I think this is extremely close. I don't want to disrespect JD's wide receivers by giving it to mine. I think CeeDee is one of the few receivers on the team that can match up with Tyreek and neutralize him. And so I have to push this. I'm going to have to push this matchup. Battle of the tight end, Hawkinson versus Njoku. Should be Hawkinson. Shouldn't even be close. And then battle of the flex, T. Higgins versus Romeo Doubs right now. Very much subject to change, as has been the case for several weeks this season. Just trying to figure out that flex. Obviously, with Tank Dell gone, done for the year, no JT still. Basically throwing in some random wide receiver and hoping they go off for a touchdown. So, could be Doubs, it could be Mingo, it could be Parker Washington. One of those 3, and I will toil away at it all the way up until noon on Sunday. I can promise you that. So, anyways, T. Higgins stinks. I guess I'll give the edge to JD. Sure, why not? And, traditionally, excuse me, I don't do well on the last game of the regular season. I've had many scenarios the last several years of winning and getting in and failing to do so. Oftentimes, many times against Rip, and so it's tough. I mean, my team's good enough. I think it's better than a couple other teams. I think to be in the playoffs, but at the same time, my team could also be 5-8. I mean, so just as easily as it could be 8-5, and I don't know. I hope I win, right? I hope I win. I'm going to do everything in my power to try to make that happen. I think JD deserves to be in too, and I think he still has a chance of being in, even if he does lose. But obviously, a win I'm sure would be very, very sweet for him to knock out the commish and officially put him in the running for the horse ass again, back to back. First time, never happened. I don't even want that to be a realm of possibility. It shouldn't be in the realm of possibility. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to win it. And I'm going to get my ass back in the playoffs, and I'm going to hopefully go on a little bit of a streak of stopping this bullshit 7-7 Jeff Fisher shit. All right? I want to be a big dog. All right? Ooh, I want to stand on business. All right? I'm ready to stand on business. Okay? Enough of this horse ass shit. It's not for me. It's worn on me all season. This gets heavier. This gets heavier every time I put it on. And I can't wait for the day that I take this off. And it's going to be a day here very soon. So anyways, that's all I got this week, fellas. Good luck this week. Do the Bowl Mania, please. Do the Bowl Mania. Pay me. And stay safe. Good luck. As always, Woo Pig.